Oh, hello there. You caught me reading The Way of the Superior Man. 它特别好看，真的。如果你是男人，必须看这本。我以后肯定会做一个 book review，很棒。Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about Jack Ma, Ma Yun, and Steve Jobs, and what we can learn from them in terms of leadership skills. It's going to be super interesting. Don't go away. 你可能之前都听说了，一个 leader 最重要的特质就是他的 vision. To achieve anything, you need a vision. And here is Ma Yun sharing his vision with his team in his house in 1999.
今天我想把大家请过来，跟大家共同探讨以后至少5年、10年我们要做的事情。那么阿里巴巴我们将做成怎么样？我们把阿里巴巴定位，就把它作为国际站点，我们不要把它定位是国内站点成功。那么目标是2002年阿里巴巴上市。
Steve Jobs and Ma Yun had big visions, but it's not only about having a vision, it's actually about repeating that vision day in, day out on a daily basis. And here's Steve Jobs talking about how he reiterated his vision regularly to his team.
There needs to be someone who is sort of the keeper and reiterator of the vision. Because there's just a ton of work to do. And a lot of times, when you have to walk 1,000 miles and you take the first step, it looks like a long ways. And it really helps if there's someone there saying, well, we're one step closer. The goal definitely exists. It's not just a mirage out there. So in 1,001 little and sometimes larger ways, the vision needs to be reiterated. I do that a lot.
这个 vision 就是一个整体的目的。With a vision, you can take a whole company and make everybody move in the same direction. The best visions can often be summarized in one sentence, just like Steve Jobs here.
Apple at the core, its core value is that we believe that people with passion can change the world for the better. That's what we believe.
So Steve's core belief is that Apple can change the world for the better. This is short, sweet, simple, and easy to understand. The second leadership skill we can learn from Ma Yun和 Steve Jobs is 马云和乔布斯都善于用催人向上的语言来激励员工。
Sun is, if you will, our friend, because they're going to spend their marketing money to convince people to move into the segment. But the minute they've made their choice to move into the segment, whether we've convinced them or Sun has convinced them, Sun and Next are mortal enemies. Are mortal enemies. Are mortal enemies.
In other words, if we zoom out at the big picture, it would be a shame to have lost the war because we won a few battles. And I sort of feel like I and some of the rest of us are concentrating too much on the smaller battles.
We have to
and we're not keeping the war in perspective, and the war is called survival.
These words and metaphors are emotionally charged. Steve Jobs says mortal enemies. He talks about wars and battles. Now, what do you think of when you think of a war or a battle? 这个暗喻有很深的意思，和许多人相关。Now, imagine Steve Jobs said this. We need to beat our competitors in the long run so we can stay in business and stay in the market. The meaning here is the same. 这个意思是一样的，但是呢，这个说法太直白了，不能带动你的情绪。It doesn't move you emotionally like the metaphor does. It doesn't get you fired up and motivated like the metaphor. So if you're leading a team and you need to encourage and motivate people, pay close attention to the words you use. Try and learn from Steve Jobs and try and use emotionally charged language that will really get your team fired up. Okay, so the third point is creating an enemy. 要创造出一个敌人。Powerful leaders know that if their company or their brand is going to become a hero, they need a nemesis. They need an enemy. our brain understands things through opposites, through polarization. For example, good, bad, black, white, feminine, masculine, 白天黑天夏天冬天 And Steve Jobs and Ma Yun understood this, and they were always creating enemies.
Will Big Blue dominate the entire computer industry? The entire information age? Was George Orwell right?
在这里 Steve Jobs 把这个非常有影响力的 IBM, Big Blue 就是 IBM, 他把 IBM 当作敌人。He also did this with Microsoft as well. 再看看马云，他以前的敌人就是 Silicon Valley 和 eBay。
我们所有的竞争对手不在于中国，而在于美国的硅谷。人家美国人强就强它的硬件，强就强它的系统建设，这方面确实比你早。但是玩信息玩软的，中国人的脑袋绝不比人家差。我们在座的所有的人的脑袋绝不比任何人差。这就是我们敢跟美国人斗的一些东西，我们绝对敢斗。如果我们是好的 team、好的团队，我们自己知道我们想做什么，我们想干些什么的时候，我相信我们是可以以一当十。我们能够赢政府机构，我们能够赢其他很多的民营企业、大的这种企业的是什么？凭的是我们的精神、我们的意识、我们的创新概念，以及我们这种拼劲才能去斗。否则的话，跟他们有什么区别呢？
那么大家也可以这么理解我的品牌打破平庸，平庸就是敌人。其实我可以称呼自己的品牌提升自己。我原来是这么想的，但这样的话听起来索然无味，完全没有影响力。Because there is no enemy, there's no bad guy, there's nothing to fight against. 那么大家也不要误解 I didn't paint mediocrity as an enemy just as a marketing or communication gimmick. The reason creating an enemy works so well is because it allows you to speak your truth. In my opinion, mediocrity is the bad guy. Comfortable mediocrity is a life without growth, without challenge, a life of boredom. So we must fight it together. 不平庸的朋友们，给力的人。
I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me. A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day. An hour of woes and shattered shields when the age of men comes crashing down. But it is not this day. This day we fight. By all that you hold dear on this good earth, I bid you stand.
打破平庸。So that was one of my favorite clips of Lord of the Rings, and you can see in that clip Aragorn, he brings the men together by having a mutual enemy and fighting that enemy. And it's my goal to do that same thing with you guys because we are fighting mediocrity. 打破平庸。Okay, so getting back to Steve Jobs and Jack Ma, the fourth and final leadership trait is conviction. 信念和决心。这里是 Pepsi CEO 的话序，他讲述了当初是如何被 Steve Jobs 说服加入 Apple 的。
And then he looked up at me and just stared at me with this stare that only Steve Jobs has. And he said, do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Or do you want to come with me and change the world? And I just gulped because I knew I would wonder for the rest of my life, what I would have missed.
The conviction and certainty that Steve Jobs resonated with his words. He said, do you want to come with me and change the world? And when he said that, you know that he was being 100% genuine and serious. He believed that he was going to change the world. Now, this is something you can't really fake, but when you build that belief up internally and everyone sees it around you, then you become very persuasive. Here's another clip of Steve Jobs talking to his staff.
I really deeply appreciate all of the commitment that's in this room and with the people not in this room to turning this company around. This company's absolutely going to turn around. As a matter of fact, I think the question now is not can we turn around Apple. I think that's the booby prize. I think it's can we make Apple really great again.
这里要注意，他说他会影响的，而不是说如果您怎样，我就会影响。因为如果给了大家一种选择性，大家可以选择不做。But Steve Jobs doesn't give them an option. He tells them that he will appreciate their commitment. He's certain that they will commit. 马云和 Steve Jobs 的人格魅力里从来没有迟疑。There was never any doubt in 马云 and Steve Jobs' mind that they were right and they were going to win. 如果过程中有轻微的迟疑，他们也不会表现出来，因为他们知道大家只会相信有坚定决心的领袖。People only follow leaders who have conviction, leaders who show certainty in their beliefs. And Donald Trump is also an awesome example of a leader who shows certainty in his beliefs and certainty and conviction in leadership. Throughout his whole business life and now his political career, he's been fully 100% certain the whole way. But he's got a lot of great traits in persuasion and leadership, so I'll probably do another video on Donald Trump. If you want to see a video on Donald Trump persuasion skills, let me know in the comments below. OK, 好了，我们来总结一下今天的内容吧。What we can learn from Ma Yun and Steve Jobs in leadership. 4 points. Number 1, vision. Number 2, emotionally charged metaphors. Number 3, create an enemy. And number 4, certainty and conviction. For more videos like this, join us and 继续打破平庸。
But it is not this day! This day we fight!
不平庸的朋友们，
Oh dear!
我是好给力，咱们一起来继续打破平庸。